Stresses and strains in pair shear. In previous lecture, we studied about non-uniform torsion. However, in this part of lecture, we will study about stresses on inclined plane and strains in pair shear. At the end of this lecture, we will try to solve a problem for better understanding of the topic. So let's start. Stresses and strains in pair shear. When a circular bar, either solid or hollow, is subjected to torsion, shear stresses act over the cross sections and on longitudinal planes, as illustrated here in figure, and we already discussed in previous lectures. We will now examine in more details the stresses and strains produced during twisting of a bar. We begin by considering a stress element A, B, C, D cut between two cross sections of a bar in torsion as shown here in figures. This element is in a state of pair shear because the only stresses acting on it are the shear stresses on the four side faces. The directions of these shear stresses depend upon the directions of the applied torques T. In this discussion, we assume that the torque rotates the right hand end of the bar clockwise when viewed from the right. Hence, the shear stresses acting on the element have the directions shown in the figure. The same state of stress exists for a similar element cut from the interior of the bar, except that the magnitudes of the shear stresses are smaller because the radial distance to the element is smaller. However, the directions of the torque are shown in the figure are intentionally chosen so that the resulting stresses are positive according to the sign convention for shear stresses described previously. This sign convention is repeated here. A shear stress acting on a positive face of an element is positive if it acts in the positive direction of one of the coordinate axes and negative if it acts in the negative direction of an axis. Conversely, a shear stress acting on a negative face of an element is positive if it acts in the negative direction of one of the coordinate axes, and negative if it acts in the positive direction of an axis. Applying this sign convention to the shear stresses acting on the stress element as shown in the figure, we see that all four shear stresses are positive. For instance, the stress on the right hand face, which is a positive face because the x-axis is directed to the right, acts in the positive direction of the y-axis. Therefore, it is a positive shear stress. Also, the stress on the left hand face, which is a negative face, acts in the negative direction of the y-axis. Therefore, it is a positive shear stress. Analogous comments applying to the remaining stresses. Stresses on inclined planes. We are now ready to determine the stresses acting on inclined planes cut through the stress element in pair shear. For this, a two-dimensional view of the stress element is shown in figure here. We usually draw a two-dimensional view for convenience, but we must always be aware that the element has a third dimension, that is thickness, perpendicular to the plane of the figure. We now cut from the element a wedge-shaped or triangular stress element having one face oriented at an angle theta to the x-axis. Normal stresses and shear stresses acting on this inclined face are shown in their positive directions in the figure. The sign convention for shear and normal stresses was described previously and is repeated here. Normal stresses are positive in tension and shear stresses are positive when they tend to produce counterclockwise rotation of the material. It is important to note that this sign convention for the shear stress acting on an inclined plane is different from the sign convention for ordinary shear stresses that act on the sides of rectangular elements oriented to a set of xy axis. The horizontal and vertical faces of the triangular element has positive shear stresses acting on them, and the front and rear faces of the element are free of stress. Therefore, all stresses acting on the element are visible in this figure. The normal and shear stresses may now be determined from the equilibrium of the triangular element. The forces acting on its three side faces can be obtained by multiplying the stresses by the areas. So we can obtain the forces by multiplying the stresses with the areas over which they act. For instance, the force on the left hand face is equal to tau A naught, where A naught is the area of the vertical face and tau is the shear stress. This force acts in the negative y direction and is shown in the free body diagram here. Because the thickness of the element in the z direction is constant, we say that the area of the bottom face is A naught tan theta and the area of the inclined face is A naught secant theta. Multiplying the stresses acting on these faces by the corresponding areas enables us to obtain the remaining forces and thereby complete the free body diagram. We are now ready to write two equations of equilibrium for the triangular element, one in the direction of sigma theta and other in the direction of tau theta. Sigma theta and tau theta are the normal and shear stresses on inclined plane. When writing these equations, the forces acting on the left hand and bottom faces must be resolved into components in the direction of sigma theta and tau theta. Thus, the first equation obtained by summing forces in the direction of sigma theta is sigma theta A naught secant theta, that is equal to tau A naught sin theta plus tau A naught tan theta cos theta. And now by cancelling the area A naught on both sides and dividing the whole equation left and right side with secant theta, the equation reduces to sigma theta is equal to 2 tau sin theta cos theta. However, the second equation is obtained by summing forces in the direction of tau theta, and the equation becomes tau theta A naught secant theta, that is equal to tau A naught cos theta minus tau A naught tan theta sin theta. Here the negative sign because the bottom force individually tends to rotate the element in clockwise direction. So once again, by cancelling A naught on both sides and dividing the whole equation with secant theta, the equation becomes tau theta is equal to tau cos square theta minus sin square theta. These equations can be expressed in simpler forms by introducing the following trigonometric identities. We know that sin 2 theta is equal to 2 sin theta cos theta, and the other trigonometric identity is cos 2 theta is equal to cos square theta minus sin square theta. As we discussed that the above equations can be expressed in simpler forms by introducing these trigonometric identities. Then the equations for sigma theta and tau theta becomes sigma theta is equal to tau sin 2 theta and tau theta is equal to tau cos 2 theta. These equations give the normal and shear stresses acting on an inclined plane in terms of the shear stress acting on the x and y planes and the angle theta defining the orientation of the inclined plane. The manner in which the shear stresses and normal stresses vary with the orientation of the inclined plane is shown by the graph in figure here, which is a plot of equations described in previous slide. We see that for angle is theta, which is the case for right hand face of the stress element, the graph gives a value of 0 for normal stresses and a value of tau for shear stresses. This latter result is expected because the shear stress tau acts counterclockwise against the element and therefore produces a positive shear stress tau theta. However, for the top face of the element, the angle is 90 degree. We obtain a value of 0 for normal stress and a value of minus tau for the shear stress. The minus sign for tau theta means that it acts clockwise against the element, that is to the right on the face AB, which is consistent with the direction of the shear stress tau. Here it is important to note that the numerically largest shear stress occurs on the planes for which theta is equal to 0 degree and 90 degree, as well as on the opposite forces for theta is equal to 180 degree and 270 degree. From the graph, we see that the normal stress tau theta reaches a maximum value at 45 degree. At that angle, the stress is positive in tension and equal numerically to the shear stress tau. Similarly, the normal stress, that is tau theta, has its minimum value, which is in compressive forces at minus 45 degree C. At both of these 45 degree angles, the shear stress is equal to 0. These conditions are pictured in figure here. which shows stress element oriented at 0 degree and at an angle of 45 degree. The element at 45 degree is acted upon by equal tensile and compressive stresses in perpendicular directions with no shear stresses. Note that the normal stresses acting on 45 degree element corresponds to an element subjected to shear stress tau acting in the directions shown in the figure here. If the shear stresses acting on the element are reversed in directions, the normal stresses acting on 45 degree planes also will change their directions. If a stress element is oriented at an angle other than 45 degree, both normal and shear stresses will act on the inclined faces. Here it is important to note that the equations derived in this section are valid for a stress element in pair shear, regardless of whether the element is cut from a bar in torsion or from some other structural elements. The other important thing is that the equations were derived from equilibrium only, so they are valid for any material whether or not it behaves in a linearly elastic manner. However, the existence of maximum tensile stresses on planes at 45 degree to the x-axis explains why bar in torsion that are made of materials that are brittle and weak in tension fail by cracking along a 45 degree helical surface. This type of failure is readily demonstrated by twisting a piece of classroom chalk. Now we will discuss about strains in pair shear. For this, let us consider the strain that exists in an element in pair shear. For instance, consider the element in pair shear. The corresponding shear strains are shown in figure here, where the deformations are highly exaggerated. The shear strain is the change in angle between two lines that were originally perpendicular to each other. Thus, the decrease in the angle at the lower left-hand corner of the element is the shear strain measured in radians. The same change in angle occurs at the upper right-hand corner where the angle decreases and at the other two corners where the angles increases. However, the lengths of the sides of the element, including the thickness perpendicular to the plane of the paper, do not change when these shear deformations occur. Therefore, the element changes its shape from a rectangular shape to an oblique shape. This change in shape is called a shear distortion. If the material is linearly elastic, the shear strain for the element oriented at 0 degree is related to the shear stress by Hooke's law. The equation can be expressed as shear strain is equal to tau over g. Here in this equation, tau is actually the shear stress and g symbolizes the shear modulus of elasticity. Next, we will consider the strains that occur in an element oriented at 45 degree. The tensile stresses acting at 45 degree tend to elongate the element in their direction. Because of the Poisson's effect, they also tend to shorten it in the perpendicular direction, the direction where angle is 135 degree or minus 45 degree. Similarly, the compressive stresses acting at 135 degree tend to shorten the element in their direction and elongate it in the 45 degree direction. These dimensional changes are shown in figure here, where the dashed lines show the deformed element. Since there are no shear distortions, the element remains a rectangular shape, even though its dimensions have changed. If the material is linearly elastic and follows Hooke's law, we can obtain an equation relating strain to stress for the element oriented at 45 degree, as shown here in figure. In such cases, the tensile stress that is symbolized with sigma max acting at 45 degree oriented element produces a positive normal strain in that direction equal to sigma max over E. Here E is the modulus of elasticity. Since sigma max is equal to tau, as we already discussed, and you can also see from the graph discussed in previous slides, we can also express this strain as tau over E. The stress that is sigma max also produces a negative strain in the perpendicular direction equal to minus nu tau over E, where nu is Poisson's ratio. Similarly, the stress or minimum stress that is symbolized with sigma minimum is equal to minus tau, The minimum stress is at an angle of 135 degree, produces a negative strain equal to minus tau over E in that direction, and a positive strain in the perpendicular direction at 45 degree angle, that is equal to nu tau over E. Therefore, the normal strain in the 45 degree direction is, the normal strain can be expressed as tau over E plus nu tau over E. Taking common tau over E, the expression can be written as tau over E 1 minus nu, 1 plus nu, which is positive representing elongation. The strain in the perpendicular direction is a negative strain of the same amount. In other words, pure shear produces elongation in the 45 degree direction and shortening in the 135 degree direction. These strains are consistent with the shape of the deformed element because the 45 degree diagonal has length increases and the 135 diagonal has shortened. However, we will use the geometry of the deformed element to relate the shear strain to the normal strain in the 45 degree direction. In so doing, we will derive the following relationship. Maximum strain is equal to half of the shear strain. This equation can be used to calculate the maximum shear strains and maximum normal strains in pure Taurian when the shear stress is known. So after studying about stresses and strains in pure shear, now we will try to solve a problem. The problem statement is a circular tube with an outside diameter of 80 mm and an inside diameter of 60 mm is subjected to a torque 4 kN meter. The tube is made of aluminium alloy 7075T6. In the problem statement, the inner and outer diameter of the circular tube is given and the applied torque is also given in the problem statement. We have to find out the maximum shear, tensile and compressive stresses in tube and show these stresses on sketches of properly oriented stress elements in part A of the problem. However, in part B, we have to find out the corresponding minimum strains in the tube and show these strains on sketches of the deformed elements. So after analyzing the problem statement, now we will move towards the solution. In part A, we have to find out the maximum stresses. The maximum values of all three stresses, shear, tensile and compressive, are equal numerically. Although they act on different planes, their magnitudes are found from the Taurian formula tau max is equal to TR over IP. Here T is torque, R is the radius of the tube and IP is the polar moment of inertia. We know that for the case of circular tube, we can find out the polar moment of inertia by using the expression pi by 32 d naught power 4 minus di power 4. Here d naught and di are the inner and outer diameters of the tube respectively. All the required values are given in the problem statement, so we can easily find out the maximum stress after some simplifications. The value will be 58.2 megapascal. The maximum shear stresses act on cross-sectional and longitudinal planes, as shown by the stress element in figure here, where the x-axis is parallel to the longitudinal axis of the tube. As we already discussed that the maximum values of all three stresses, shear, tensile and compressive, are equal numerically. So the maximum tensile and compressive stresses will be 58.2 megapascal and minus 58.2 megapascal. Here the subscript T and C represents the tensile and compressive stresses respectively. These stresses act on planes at 45 degree to the axis as shown in the figure. However, in part B, we have to determine the maximum strains. The maximum shear strain in the tube is obtained from the relation of Hooke's law as maximum shear strain is equal to tau max over G. G is the shear modulus of elasticity. Its value given in the problem statement, and we have just calculated the value of tau max, that was 58.2 megapascal. So after putting the required values, the maximum shear strain will be 0.0022 radian. The deformed element is shown by the dashed line in figure here. However, the magnitude of maximum normal strain can be found from the relation maximum normal strain is equal to maximum shear strain divided by 2. Maximum shear strain is 0.0022 radian. So the maximum normal strain will be 0.0011. Thus the maximum tensile and compressive strains are 0.0011 and minus 0.0011 respectively. The deformed element is shown by the dashed line in figure for an element with sides of unit length. So in this lecture we studied the stresses and strains in pair shear with the assistance of a simple problem for better understanding of the topic. Thank you for your attention.